Don't turn around. Everyone hears it at least once in their life, the feeling that someone is standing behind you when no one should be there. It happened to me on a night that was too quiet to feel real. I was alone in my apartment, sitting at my desk, the only light coming from my laptop screen. Outside, the city had gone strangely silent. No traffic, no distant voices. Even the hum of electricity felt muted, as if the world had paused to listen. That was when I heard it. A breath, not mine. It was slow, deliberate, warm against the back of my neck. My shoulders stiffened. My fingers froze above the keyboard. The air behind me felt heavy, crowded, like something was occupying space that didn't belong to it. I told myself it was my imagination. Lack of sleep, stress. Every excuse felt thin, like paper over a crack. Then something whispered my name. Not spoken, exhaled. The voice was close enough that it vibrated in my bones. It knew how to say my name the way no stranger should, stretching the syllables with familiarity, with ownership. My reflection stared back at me from the darkened laptop screen. My eyes were wide, my face pale. But behind me, the reflection showed only darkness. The whisper came again, softer this time. Don't turn around. My heart slammed against my ribs. Every instinct screamed to look, to face whatever was behind me. Humans are not built for uncertainty, we crave answers, even terrible ones. The chair creaked. Something shifted closer. The air grew colder, yet my skin burned as if touched by invisible hands. I could feel the outline of it now, not visually, but mentally, a presence too tall, too still, leaning forward as if studying me. Why? I whispered, my voice barely sound. The breath returned, deeper now, almost amused. Because, it said, you won't like what you see. My desk lamp flickered. In that brief pulse of light, I caught movement in the reflection, not a shape, not a face, but a wrongness, like a shadow folding in on itself. I squeezed my eyes shut. Memories flooded my mind that weren't mine. Dark hallways, locked doors, people who turned around and never screamed because their mouths were already gone. I felt those memories settle into me, as if they had been waiting for space. The thing behind me chuckled, a sound like dry leaves dragged across stone. You feel it now, it murmured. That pull, that curiosity. I've waited so long for you to feel it. My neck ached from holding still. Sweat trickled down my spine. My body trembled, not from fear alone, but from the effort of resisting something ancient and patient. Just a glance, it coaxed. Everyone does. The room grew darker, the edges of reality thinning. I realized then that it didn't need me to turn around physically. It wanted me to invite it, to acknowledge it fully. I clenched my fists and stared straight ahead. No, I said. The silence that followed was deafening. The pressure lifted. The cold receded. The presence withdrew slowly, reluctantly, like a tide pulling back from shore. Just before it vanished, it whispered one last thing. Next time, you won't be so strong. The apartment returned to normal sounds, the hum of electricity, the distant city breathing again. I sat there for hours, afraid to move, afraid that even blinking might count as turning around. That night passed. Days passed. But sometimes, when I'm walking alone or standing in front of a mirror, I feel it again, that familiar weight behind me, that breath just out of sync with my own. And every time, a voice inside my head begs me to look. So if you ever feel it, that presence, that whisper, that certainty that you are not alone, don't turn around, because some things don't disappear when you see them. They stay. I thought surviving that night meant it was over. I was wrong. The next morning, sunlight filled my apartment, warm and ordinary, mocking the terror I barely survived. Every object sat where it always had. No marks, no shadows burned into the walls. Nothing to prove I hadn't imagined it all. But the mirror in my bathroom was fogged over. I hadn't taken a shower. Written across the glass, traced by a finger that did not belong to me, were 3 words. Don't turn around. My knees buckled. I wiped the mirror clean with shaking hands, but the message left a faint smear, like the glass remembered the touch. From that moment on, I was never truly alone again. It followed rules, cruel, patient rules. It never appeared directly. It only existed behind me. And it moved when I wasn't looking. I started noticing small things at first. Footprints in dust that stopped inches behind my heels. Chairs pulled slightly closer to where I'd been sitting. Doors left ajar that I knew I'd closed. Worst of all was the breathing. Always one breath behind mine. At night, I slept facing the wall, my back pressed against it so nothing could stand there. Still, I felt it hovering above me, its presence bending the darkness. The mattress would dip, slowly, as if something heavy were leaning down to study my face. It never touched me. Touch would have been mercy. The whispers changed. They stopped warning me. They started describing me. How your heart speeds up. How your spine tightens. How tired you are of being afraid. I stopped using mirrors. I covered reflective surfaces with cloth. Even my phone screen felt dangerous when it went dark. But reflection doesn't only live in glass. One evening, riding the elevator in my building, I noticed something wrong in the metal doors. My reflection moved, but not exactly with me. It lagged by half a second, its smile stretching just a little too wide. The doors closed. The lights flickered. The whisper returned, closer than ever. You looked, it said softly. The elevator dropped. Not fast, slow, grinding, like something was dragging us down by hand. The numbers on the panel melted, twisting into symbols I didn't understand. I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing myself into the corner. I felt it then. Fingers. Long. Thin. Cold. They brushed the back of my neck for the first time. My vision filled with images, people standing in empty rooms, turning around out of curiosity, out of fear, out of defiance. Their faces didn't disappear. They changed. They became hollow, rearranged, unrecognizable yet familiar, like something trying to wear a human memory. The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto my floor. Normal. Quiet. I ran. Inside my apartment, I slammed the door and collapsed against it, gasping. My throat burned from screams I hadn't made. That was when I heard my own voice. Not from my mouth. From behind me. Perfectly calm. Perfectly mine. You can turn around now, it said. I shook my head violently, tears spilling down my face. No, I whispered. You're not me. It laughed, my laugh, warped and echoing. I will be. The lights went out. In the darkness, I felt it step closer, its presence wrapping around me like a second spine. My thoughts began to slip, memories rewriting themselves, moments of my life feeling, edited. I understood then. It didn't want to kill me. It wanted my place. It wanted my front. Somewhere deep inside, a survival instinct flared. I reached forward blindly and smashed the lamp on my table. Glass shattered. Light exploded into the room. The presence screamed, not in pain, but in rage. The pressure vanished. The air snapped back to normal. I was alone again, for now, but something stayed behind. When I finally dared to look at my shadow on the wall, it wasn't copying me anymore. It was facing forward, watching, waiting for the moment I forget. Because it doesn't need me to turn around anymore. Soon, it will.